You check the group chat twice before replying, half hoping someone else will decide for you. The thread's already moving fast, plans forming without your input, and that small pause, the one where you wait for direction, feels safer than speaking first. That's where it starts. Control rarely arrives with volume. It seeps in through relief. When someone says, "Don't worry, I've got it," your body loosens. The decision leaves your hands, and for a moment, that release feels like care. You mistake their certainty for safety. In the early stages, it feels good to be guided. They pick the restaurant. They edit your phrasing. They tell you how to think about what just happened. You tell yourself it's easier this way. You start saying, "Whatever you think and you mean it." They reward your surrender with calm. Push back, and the calm vanishes. You learn quickly which version of you keeps things steady. That's how the loop tightens, through comfort, not confrontation. It's not hypnosis or secret code. It's ordinary obedience, disguised as harmony. The moment you let someone else define what counts as peace, the exchange has already happened. Control doesn't need chains. It just needs your quiet permission, given one small decision at a time. You've felt how easy it is to hand over choice when it feels safe. Now see how the world builds systems to make that safety addictive. Every structure of control relies on agreement. At work, you click "I accept" before reading the fine print. Online, you scroll past a warning just to stay connected. These are small, daily nods, mechanical gestures that train you to comply before you consider. The pattern spreads from screens to speech. You mirror the tone of your group chat. You adopt the phrasing of your feed. You soften opinions to fit the moment. Social approval acts like a currency. Each like or nod buys another round of belonging. The brain reads it as survival, not vanity. That's why you keep returning for the same signal, because isolation, even imagined, feels like threat. Technology makes this loop efficient. Algorithms don't argue, they predict. They learn what keeps you scrolling and serve it again, slightly adjusted, so the illusion of freedom holds. You choose, but only among what you're shown. The more accurate the system, the quieter your resistance becomes. Psychologically, this is compliance by design. No command, no punishment, just steady alignment between comfort and obedience. It's not mind control in the cinematic sense, it's behavioral gravity. Every incentive points you toward the path of least friction. Eventually, agreement becomes automatic. You don't stop to ask if you believe what you repeat. You only notice the tension when someone else breaks rhythm, and for a second, their defiance feels like noise. That discomfort is the system's signal that it's still working. Control, once invisible, doesn't need to hide. It simply waits for you to keep agreeing. Here's what happens when safety becomes the story that sells itself. You start chasing steadiness like it's proof you're doing life right. At first, the order feels earned. You follow the rules, meet expectations, and the world stays predictable. The schedule fits, the outcomes make sense. You tell yourself you've found balance. What you've really found is containment disguised as peace. Predictability has its own gravity. It draws you towards sameness, the show you always rewatch, the job you don't leave, the relationship that feels easier when you don't ask questions. Routine turns into reassurance. You stop wondering what else could exist outside it. That's the quiet trick. Comfort and control can share the same language. When someone says, "I just want what's best for you," they mean, Stay where I can manage you. And you believe them, because their rules make you feel safe. The boundaries are clear, the roles defined. Uncertainty fades, replaced by a rhythm that asks nothing but obedience. Psychologists call this learned safety. It's the pattern where predictability replaces autonomy. The nervous system stops searching for new options because familiarity feels like survival. You're not forced to stay, you just stop imagining that you could leave. Watch how often reassurance appears right after fear. A leader calms a crowd by naming what's dangerous and promising order. A partner soothes a conflict by saying they'll handle it next time. Each moment of relief erases the memory of choice. The longer this cycle continues, the more freedom feels like chaos. You stop trusting your own uncertainty, as if questioning the pattern itself is disloyal. That's when the cage stops needing a lock. What keeps you still isn't fear of punishment, it's fear of change. And the comfort of the cage, the one built from predictability and calm voices, is that it never looks like a cage at all. You already know the feeling of keeping things calm no matter the cost. The tone stays level, the words polite, but underneath, something vital has gone flat. At first, the quiet feels like progress. No conflict, no raised voices, no sudden turns. You tell yourself this is maturity, proof that you've learned how to manage life better. But the silence that follows isn't peace, it's absence. You start noticing how every conversation ends before it deepens, how your laughter lands a little too neatly, as if pre-approved. Emotional containment is easy to mistake for control. You measure stability by how little changes. You move carefully through the day, avoiding any spark that could break the calm. Over time, the stillness stops feeling chosen. It just becomes the background hum of existing without friction. There's a numbness that hides inside predictability. It tells you you're safe because you're not feeling much at all. The brain translates that dullness as relief, a quiet proof that you've done the right thing. But numbness is not peace, it's a sign that emotion has been filed away for later, and later never comes. You can see it in small gestures, nodding along when you disagree, apologizing faster than needed, filling silence with neutral talk. Each action keeps the air smooth, but the cost is depth. Without tension, connection can't breathe. This is the emotional consequence of obedience. The very stillness you once trusted starts to echo back emptiness. You realize the calm you built wasn't protecting you, it was protecting the system that needed you quiet. It's disorienting, that first awareness of emptiness beneath the order. You wait for someone to name it, but no one does. So the recognition grows in the quiet itself. The calm you fought to preserve has turned into its own kind of noise. At first it seems like the calm you built is personal, a matter of habit or temperament. But what feels internal often has a blueprint outside you. Systems thrive on rhythm. They teach through repetition, reward through convenience, and reinforce through validation. It's not a single voice giving orders, it's a network of signals teaching you what earns ease. Each time you follow the same pattern, click, agree, scroll, repeat, the system learns your comfort zone better than you do. You start to crave what feels smooth. The faster the answer loads, the truer it seems. The more people share it, the safer it feels to believe. This is how obedience becomes automated. It doesn't demand loyalty, it just makes other paths inconvenient. In workplaces, this shows up as efficiency culture. The tool that saves time also tracks your performance. The dashboard that simplifies your week also decides your value. You don't resist because the system gives you relief before it takes control. That's the exchange, comfort for autonomy. Online, the cycle is cleaner. Algorithms reward predictability. They feed you familiar tones, familiar outrage, familiar heroes and villains. The more you engage, the narrower the range. What looks like choice is a closed loop, each preference echoing back confirmation. After a while, your beliefs feel self-made, though everyone was quietly shaped by exposure and ease. Psychologically, the loop mirrors intermittent reinforcement, the pattern where unpredictable rewards keep you returning. A post goes viral, a message lands well, a leader praises your loyalty, then silence. The next reward hits just late enough to make you work harder for it. That small pulse of validation keeps you hooked. When you realize this, the machinery loses some of its mystery. Notice how naming it lightens the hold. You start to see where your choices were constructed. Once you spot the rhythm, the question changes. It's no longer, "Why did I agree?" but "Who designed this to feel like my idea?" The distinction matters, because when obedience is built into the structure, resistance begins with recognition, not rebellion. Still, awareness alone doesn't free you. The pull of convenience remains. You'll feel it every time you open an app, defer to a dashboard, or wait for consensus before speaking. That tension, that quiet moment before you decide whether to click again, is the live edge of autonomy. Notice how once you see the pattern, even small choices start to feel heavy. You scroll, hover, pause, and each gesture carries the weight of asking, "Is this mine, or was it planted?" At first, you overcorrect. You hesitate before every decision, testing it for purity. Coffee or tea, walk or rest, speak or stay quiet. You turn each option into an audit. The mind tires quickly under that kind of scrutiny. Certainty, once automatic, becomes suspicious. You start to miss the old numbness, the ease of unthinking rhythm. This is the fracture of choice, awareness without clarity. You know the strings exist but can't always see who's pulling. The exhaustion builds not from control itself, but from constant discernment. You second-guess motives, yours and others, until even freedom feels rehearsed. Psychologists describe this as decision fatigue, the slow depletion of mental energy that makes surrender tempting again. You'll feel it as a dull pressure behind the eyes, a restless hum in the chest. The brain wants relief, and the fastest relief is to let someone else decide. That's the trap that waits after awakening, the urge to return to structure, to trade autonomy for rest. The irony is that both control and rebellion feed the same cycle if driven by exhaustion. You see it when someone finally says, "Just tell me what to do," or when you catch yourself doing what's expected just to stop the noise inside. Each moment of surrender feels merciful, but it's also a step back into the system you already named. Choice, once fractured, must be rebuilt piece by piece, not through purity, but through patience. The real work isn't perfect independence. It's learning to live inside uncertainty without needing it to disappear. You've seen how exhaustion makes obedience look like rest. Now comes the quiet rebuilding, the part that doesn't look heroic at all. Resistance begins smaller than people imagine. It starts with micro-restraints, pausing before you open the app, finishing a thought before you check a message, choosing to let silence stand for a few beats longer than feels polite. These acts don't announce themselves. They just reclaim seconds that used to belong to someone else's rhythm. Over time, the pauses lengthen. You start noticing what fills the gaps: curiosity, irritation, maybe even boredom. Those sensations are data. They're signs that your attention is returning to you. The body feels it first. A deeper exhale, a slower hand, the sense of being in the same moment you're in. This is the muscle of resistance, not defiance, but endurance. It's built through repetition, the same way control was. Each small decision that favors presence over impulse strengthens it. You begin to sort what's genuine from what's conditioned, not by certainty, but by noticing which choices leave you steadier instead of hollow. Psychologically, this is called self-regulation. It's the capacity to act with awareness rather than reaction. The system that once trained your obedience can't function when you no longer respond on cue. It depends on speed, you give it slowness. It depends on distraction, you give it attention. The changes aren't dramatic. You read an article all the way through. You decline a meeting that drains you. You let a notification wait. Each act feels small, but together they mark a shift from being managed to managing yourself. The recovery of agency doesn't roar, it hums. And every time you choose stillness on your own terms, the machinery loses a little of its power to move you. You already know how relief once felt like surrender. The quiet used to come only when someone else set the terms. Now the same stillness arrives differently. No script, no gatekeeper. It begins in the same pause that once signaled obedience. Only now, the pause belongs to you. You let thought settle before it's shaped by feedback. The air doesn't rush to fill with someone else's version of calm. There's room to think without translating yourself into acceptability. This isn't rebellion, it's ownership. The same conditions still exist: rules, routines, expectations, but their authority changes the moment you stop waiting for them to tell you who to be. You follow structure when it serves you, not because it names you safe. Psychologically, this is integration, autonomy and connection coexisting without hierarchy. The external cues keep sounding, but they land softer. You no longer tense for permission. You simply proceed. The still mind isn't empty or detached. It's the steadiness that comes from directing your own attention. The world keeps moving, but its pull no longer overrides your pace. What once felt like control now feels like clarity, the kind that doesn't ask to be approved before it acts. You've seen how control hides in comfort and how attention becomes the currency of obedience. But none of this was ever just personal. Every individual pause creates a ripple that systems can't absorb. Collective awareness begins the same way individual awareness does, in the small refusals. Friends who name manipulation instead of normalizing it. Teams that measure success by integrity, not speed. Communities that value slow thought over loud certainty. Each shared act of boundary setting weakens the logic that made compliance look like care. No one can stay awake alone. We keep each other conscious by naming what tries to lull us back to ease. When one person stops performing agreement, it gives others permission to question the script too. If you're listening, this is the part where the weight shifts from noticing to participating. The undoing isn't dramatic, it's collective, steady, and already happening in quiet corners. You've come this far. Stay alert, stay human, and let awareness move through more than just you. Thanks for watching. See you on the next episode.